it's on record, and we're creating the documentation of who is aiding and abetting. The Globe and Mail, the media conglomerates, the PR companies, that's where the criminality lies. The Globe and Mail is a sponsor of this. How can they cover the story of George Bush and his criminality and whether it will be accountable? How can the Globe and Mail cover it when they are sponsoring him to speak on a public forum with a former president to present this as if this is the stuff of polite debate among gentlemen? No, sir.
And you were in Calgary when Bush and Clinton there? Was it exactly the same type of event?
Yeah, I worked closely with Splitting the Sky, who was arrested in his efforts to do a citizen's arrest of George Bush. He will be here in Toronto on May the 29th. He worked closely with Ramsey Clark, former Attorney General of the United States. We worked with Lawyers Against War, Gail Davidson. And we put respectable pressure on the Canadian government to show that there was a significant constituency in Alberta, in Canada, and internationally that really saw this as a travesty, that a credibly accused war criminal, it's not rocket science, there's an enormous amount of evidence on record concerning torture, Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo Bay, that this is a credibly accused war criminal. Canada does have a Domestic War Crimes and Crimes Against Humanities Act, domestic legislation that asserts these universal principles of international law. So it was absolutely illegal for George Bush to be allowed into the country, not to be arrested at the spot. Because of Splitting the Sky's efforts to arrest George Bush, do a citizen's arrest, there will be a 5-day trial in March of 2010. And we do have a process. This was to test the waters for what is happening, I suppose now, it wasn't clear then, but this debate between Clinton and Bush, again, it ups the ante. The corporate sponsors are TD Bank, the Globe and Mail newspaper, Ernst & Young, Bennett Jones, a legal firm, who, lawyers are supposed to uphold the law, not host international war criminals or credibly accused international war criminals. So there's a corporate-driven drive to use Canada to rebrand and remake the image of George W. Bush. We have to mobilize here in Toronto on May the 29th and leading up to May the 29th to show there is a huge constituency that is appalled with our own local Canadian law enforcement officials who refuse and did refuse in Calgary and so far are refusing here in Toronto to send out a signal that the law of Canada must prevail, that the rule of law prevails. The rule of law prevails even when it comes to powerful people, rich people. What we see really is the rule of law is clearly just for street people. This sends out a signal that there really is no credible rule of law. It's just a political tool which Harper is clearly using. He, of course, is complicit in war crimes and crimes against humanity, is as subject to the kind of trials and prosecutions that should be pressed against Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice. So this is a major issue of our time, the rampant criminality of our time, and what are we going to do about it? How are we going to either use our state governments or, if necessary, as citizens of the world, find other ways to see that the rule of law prevails, that somehow those most responsible for the highest order of international crime are brought to justice?